Hey, GLP-1 plus size community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Hey everyone, before we dive in, I really want to share something personal with you. About, I want to say like 8 to 10 months ago, after losing 100 pounds on GLP-1s and keeping it off for a long time, I started regaining out of nowhere, and I was terrified. But I also started having hot flashes and bouts of crying and snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. unable to go back to sleep. It turns out I was in perimenopause. So I started hormone replacement therapy, which is also called HRT, through a telehealth called Winona that specializes in this. And it changed everything. And now I'm sleeping better and my hot flashes are all but gone, thank God. And I feel like myself again. And it turns out that you can actually start perimenopause as early as 35. And well, I'm 46 and she's here. HRT has really come a long way and there's just no need to suffer anymore. So if you're like this and you're in the same boat, you can check out buywinona.com and you can use the link in our link tree to save some money.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper. With results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster. Confidence higher. Price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast. Hey, Kat.
I'm doing my Russell Westbrook.
What is this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Kim's like, who's that? Understand.
Kat is my pop culture friend, so she knows like everything about pop culture, and I do not. Clearly,
so an athlete, he was a basketball player. But anyway, so every time he made a basket, it was anyway. Okay. So hi,
Kat.
We always start something with some random pop culture reference. That's what I'm here for.
I know you're here for many things, including being my friend. That's the social lubricant of our friendship.
You could just call me the lube.
The lube, the social lube.
I go by KC Jelly.
KC Jelly. Speaking of giggles, even though we weren't speaking, we were only giggling. Someone made a nasty comment on one of my videos on TikTok and goes, and I'm going to give them the attention they deserve, and goes on the comment. They go, on the pen is going to steal your crown. You need to listen to your reviews about your audio and about your giggles. Listen, y'all, we gonna giggle. This is just me and Kat. This is who we are. But it's okay because if you are, and I'm leading in, like if you are said person that doesn't like giggles, then this is your cue to fast forward because
Kat and I are going to your time for giggling.
This is you can get to the meat and potatoes, but in the beginning. We friends and we catch up. So if you're new here, I'm Kim, and this is the Plus Sides, and this is Kat, and she is my a co-producer and co-host and a bestie, and we produce this show together. This show is an education and advocacy podcast. So if you're new here, I've been on GLP-1s for 3.5 years. Kat's been about that long too.
Yep.
I've had obesity since I was a little girl. I remember dealing with food noise now that I know what it is. At literally when I was 8, like fighting to get like seconds and thirds of spaghetti and what people would think of me. And so this is something that I've had my whole life. When I took a GLP-1, it wasn't that I couldn't like shut up talking about the meds. I couldn't shut up telling people it wasn't their fault. Like point blank period. There's no way that I took this one thing and this thing I've suffered with my whole life has changed things this much. There's no way it was my fault. So that's what this podcast is about. I've lost 100 pounds, but one thing Kat and I talk about a lot is it actually doesn't have anything to do with weight at all. It's just a disease. It's a disease. Okay. So we learn about that here because we want you to have language, right? To be able to have good conversations with your doctors, to advocate for what you need, with your family, with your friends, because we are going to get loud and change things. So we're so glad to have you here. That's who I am.
Anywhere.
Yeah. Kat, tell us a little bit about who you are while you're here. What's up? What you doing?
I'm Kat, and we want to make GLP-1s affordable.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. I've also been on the Terzeps for 3.5 years, right? We're kind of like OGs.
We are OGs. Girl.
We are the OGs of the community.
GLP OGs, yeah.
Yeah, we are the OGs. I too had childhood obesity. I don't know. Kim and I both talk about how we don't know what it's like growing up skinny, being skinny. And quite frankly, I've learned to kind of enjoy it, being a little fluffy. So I have finally lost 100 pounds. It took me, I'm a notorious slow responder, but I think on one hand, it was by design because I'm going to have my glass of vino and I'm going to have my chocolate cake, right?
Listen.
I'm not going to eradicate it. I would still count, but I'm not going to count stringently. And if I'm out of town, I will have a carrot and then I will have a cupcake. And so speaking of going out of town, like I will enjoy myself on a vacation, right?
Yes.
I put on 5 lbs, and guess what? I just knew I was like, once I get into regular, back into my routine, it was gone. 5 pounds were gone in 3 days.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
So,
I think we think it's 5 pounds of fat, and like that's just not true. Like, you didn't gain 5 pounds of fat in a weekend. You know?
And I'm sure it was the night where we were on the beach and we polished off a glass of vino, watching the meteor shower. But that's like life that it's just life. A part of life that you want to experience. And okay.
Yeah.
By like the third day on vacation, all I wanted was vegetables. Like there's just this natural ebb and flow that you learn.
That is so true for me. If I do eat like garbage, then I'm like automatically, I'm like, man, like I just want like
I could just use an apple.
Like, yeah.
And naturally, your body just is like, okay, we're done. We don't want French fries anymore. So it's So it's balance.
That's the power of it. I think that Kat and I talk a lot about like the food noise, and like Kat always says like, no, I never had a version. She's like, I just had a wall. And like, when I get there, I hit my wall, and that's it. Everybody kind of experiences a little bit different, and I think you need to not compare your journey. So we talk about that a lot. It is the holidays. We're recording this literally right before like
2 days, 3 days before Christmas.
Yeah. And we usually like to do a holiday episode. And I've been so busy with work and stuff, I hadn't even had a chance. And I came across this doctor who actually I didn't even get a chance to meet when we were at Obesity Week, but a lot of our friends met her. And she's going to be our guest today. And we're going to talk about GLP-1s, obesity, emotional eating, all of the things. So we hope you'll stay around and have a lovely conversation. Yeah. I'm going to invite her in and we'll get going. Yay! Woo! Dr. Robyn, how you doing?
Hello.
I'm just loving this blue you have on with this turn.
Thank you. I'm in a little bit of a shadow. My lighting crew was on vacation in my home office.
This is my lighting for people watching.
Yeah.
It's like whatever.
Plugged in over here, so leave it.
Yeah, we're fine. You look pretty bright. You're looking pretty good, Kat. I like it.
I just pulled back. That's all I did. Just put the TV tray in.
I want to, we'll have questions, to go through that we've sort of talked about, but I would love for people to understand a little bit about who you are and how you help people.
First of all, thank you. both so
Thank
much
you.
for all this effort and advocacy and putting people ahead of all the drama out there. I just think you do such an important service, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you. We are not rich advocates, but we
is there such a thing as that?
No, there's not.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here's the situation. I had Will Smith in my head just there. If you're a child of the 80s, then you can't help that. Okay. I have been in the obesity space basically since like before it was cool. So for like 20 years, before everybody wanted to be in this space, because let's be honest, right? There's a lot more attention, and with that attention comes money, right? I have been doing this since really about 2001. I started really in this area. And I'll just sort of give you like a very brief rundown of what happened. So I started actually helping as a research assistant when I was a little master's student, working on a project, understanding what happens when people's taste preferences max out. And so there's this thing called sensory specific satiety. What? And so there was an article in the New York Times maybe 10 years ago now about it around Thanksgiving. And the article was entitled something like, "Why do we always have room for pie?" And it was a discussion about this idea. Because like if you're eating savory, you reach what's called a satiety level for that particular sensation.
Okay.
Same with sweet. And that's why like the sweet, salty thing is so...
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay.
Right. So way back then, I was studying eating behavior from this idea of like, what is sensory specific satiety? Why does that matter in how people eat? And especially around emotional
telling me that he has this. And I am telling you, I was calling BS. He was like, "No, Mom, my hamburger tummy is full now. I want ice cream." And I'm like, "No, that's not real." And he's like,
"I like that hamburger tummy."
Yeah, he's so onto it. So anyway, so way back then I was studying that because I grew up in a family that loved food, and food was love, just like so many of us. And obesity runs through our whole family. My experience is lived experience with obesity in my childhood and my teen years and my high school years. And I literally got to college and was like, oh, like my body is different than these other people here, because I grew up around people that looked just like me. And it like didn't dawn on me that was different, right? Until I showed up at a place where people had a lot more resources than I did, quite frankly.
True.
And that started my interest in understanding this. And fast forward, I did a master's degree, then I got a PhD in a medical and clinical psych program. And that whole time I was studying sort of like the mental behavioral side of eating behavior and weight management. And I did a lot of emphasis on community-based projects. So I was working in historically Black churches all around the Washington, D.C. region, trying to understand how people made decisions about their health and what mattered to people. And I just like every minute in this space is a minute that I decide that I want to be in it for the next minute. I love my job so much. So now fast forward all this time, I have my own practice, and I have a group of people that work with me, and I have a little bit of an incubator where I do a lot of work with people on understanding obesity as a disease and treating patients living with obesity, and whether they're living with obesity or not, living with body image stuff and eating stuff. And, because all of us have something around food, or most of us do anyway. And so that's sort of the history. And I have been in DC for a long time now, but, and it's my home, but really my home is in this field. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I'm not lying, and I think, I cannot believe I get to do this job. Yeah. Like what a total honor. It's the best.
That is so cool. I definitely feel that way about like what we do too. I think that the way, and I'm wondering how you feel like with this perfect like caveat. We do get tired. We do get advocate fatigue. Like because it's like, I will tell you though, for better or worse, I think all of the people that are about to get access from a Medicare perspective, I'm concerned we don't have the infrastructure from a patient portal or mental health perspective to be able to or even community perspective to be able to support that.
We don't have one now.
No. And it's going to happen in April if it doesn't
Yes.
happen. And so that but I will tell you, at least seeing it happen. And if it does happen, right, if it's all signed and goes through and we codify and all the things that we want, that's the first needle we've seen actually move as we've been doing this work for 3 years. Right. And it helps because it's okay, people are listening. Right. And cause it does sort of sometimes feel like you're yelling into a void, and I can't even imagine you've been doing it 20 years, So, I mean, I would love to understand a little bit about what has it been like to see this shift over the past years?
Wow. Right. Okay. So when I've reflected back on what is actually happening, I keep thinking this is the gift of hope. For the first time in so long, I feel like I can talk to my patients and say, hold on, help is actually coming. Yeah. And it has felt really scary to be in this job for a really long time and to know that it's not personal responsibility, and yet to be talking to people about health and, their lifestyles, because as you and I have talked about, Kim, this is, every person will benefit from solid nutrition, a good movement plan, healthy sleep, good stress management, right? I don't care if you have no diagnoses or you have 6 chronic conditions, right? That is our foundations for feeling as well as we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the idea that has been pinned on people as a treatment we would never say, well, all you got to do to treat your cancer is this.
Absolutely.
Right? That's crazy. And so it's been a really hard tightrope to walk for a long time, respecting that. And I feel really, really hopeful about the future and really relieved that the science is finally where we kind of knew it could go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really interesting to see. I'm wondering, Kat and I were talking today, and I'll ever tell you about how we get all these trolls and stuff on the internet, but sometimes we get them in person. I don't. I dare somebody. But Kat has had a couple the past couple of weeks. She's this just showing up in my real life with these sort of naysayers. What's that been like, Kat? And what have you been saying to them? Quick pause here. I've had moments on my GLP-1 journey where insurance changes or rising costs force me to look for a new provider. And honestly, that process can feel very overwhelming. But that's why the Plus Sides podcast has partnered with GLP Winner to give our subscribers a resource to help them make that decision easier. GLP Winner is a comparison platform that lets you explore telehealth providers in all 50 states, whether you're looking for brand name medications or compounded options. You can see pricing up front, read reviews, and get a clear picture of which provider might align best with your needs. Check it out today at glpwinner.com/plus-sides. That's glpwinner.com/plus-sides. Don't forget the Z. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast because obviously many of our listeners are going through the same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need.
"20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise." That's the power of GLP-1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP-1s is possible through Ro.
Oh my gosh, where do I start? I mean, it's, I find that, so first and foremost, the big thing is the argument is these are for diabetics, or this is diabetes. And so what I say to them is, well, many of the practitioners, experts, obesity specialists that we have talked to, some of them would argue that obesity is the precursor, or we already are presently in diabetes. So technically, we all deserve access to this, right? That's the first and foremost. I do always reference Dr. David Kessler, because we spoke with him. And I think when you say FDA, people they back down a little bit. But yeah, sometimes I know I talked to somebody.
Do you know him, Dr. Robyn? Have you met him, Dr. Kessler?
One time, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know him well at all.
Yeah. He came on our show and talked to us for like 2 hours about his book. And
awesome.
but yeah, that's this is a former head of the FDA under Clinton and Bush. And we were both like, he came on our show and he just professored with us and just taught us all this different stuff. Some people were like, he's condescending. I'm like, no, he's not. He's a professor.
I didn't feel any hubris. I felt
not at all.
I felt like I was in class. I felt like I
was in class. Yes.
But he was like one of those engaging, passionate professors.
But he said something to Kat. Remember, Kat? He goes,
I said, I suffer with binge eating disorder. He was like, everybody has that. Don't even, we all binge.
He was like, we all do that, Yeah. I'm curious, like with the people that you have, your patients in the past, are you dealing with people that have binge eating disorder or who have had it in the past?
So here's where I'll slightly disagree with him.
I like that. We love different opinions.
I love that.
Many people engage in binge episodes or overeating. But there is a little bit of a, like anything, right? There's sort of a spectrum.
Yes.
And we have on one end, people that do what we call this is so sciencey and annoying, but eating in the absence of hunger. So just sort of mindless, you're just eating because it's there.
Yeah.
And then we have more sort of emotionally based eating, right? So Golden Girls sit around the table after a breakup and eat their ice cream, right? Those episodes. And probably lots of us engage in things like that. And sometimes that is culturally sanctioned, the Super Bowl, your favorite team is down. Everybody's eating chips and guac because they're stressed out about their team losing. And that's culturally normed.
Yeah.
Or
Totally.
Thanksgiving dinner where everybody eats until they're passed out on the couch, culturally normed. And lots of people engage in both of those things.
Yeah.
People that have binge eating disorder, at least some of the patients I've treated, it's a little minimizing for them to hear that compared to what their experience is, because it can be really, really upsetting to feel so out of control of what you're eating and to feel so ashamed of what you're eating. It takes my breath away to hear people talk about how they just wish that they could rip the food out of their mouths or rip the skin off their bodies after. It's really bad. And so I don't want to minimize it when people have something that is.
I get it. Yeah.
Them,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I have, it's weird for me to say I have binge eating disorder because I did have a overeating episode, but I have not had a binge eating episode in 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And that is
I haven't had a serious binge in a long time.
But I remember when I had the just the episode of overeating, and it was twice as much as I would normally eat. Yeah. I called Kat and I was like, I just binge ate, and we talked about it. And she's like, there's a difference. You overate, right? This is not the perpetual cycle. I had a lap band, and I had put in 2007.
Yeah.
And I lost weight on it, but then eventually my body adjusted and I ate all the time, all day long. Yeah. And I would drink when I would eat. And I remember hating, like, I would tell you, I hear people tell this all the time, like, I hate myself. I do not hate myself. Even in my biggest body, I've always loved myself. I really have, because my mom would not allow me not to. But I still hated that about myself. And that
Yeah,
feeling
I
of
agree.
when you're doing it,
Yes.
wanting to stop, but
Yes.
you can't, is the worst feeling ever.
Yes.
It is. It's awful. The lack of control. Like, I was on a podcast recently and explaining this to this lady, and I was like, I remember being like with like in front of French fries, right? And not wanting them, but needing them, like having to and feeling myself like putting them in, and like just the repetitive motion and not being able to stop. So that's why anytime I hear anyone say like push the plate away, I am so triggered when I hear that. And I try to not, but it is very difficult. I think that it is very serious. I think just like everything else we're learning, especially with obesity, it's definitely a spectrum, right?
Yes.
And there
I
are people that have it very severely.
Right.
And then, and because we had Rosie on our show, we had Rosie on our show our first season. And she was saying that she went to like an Overeaters Anonymous, because her and Kat were talking about it. And she was like, no, like someone said that they bought like a cake or something. It was something like that, Kat, remember? And she was like, and they were telling a story about how they had thrown the cake out. They only ate half of the cake or half of the donuts or something. And everybody was cheering because it was just like such this big moment of control. And she was like, I can't relate with this. So just because you have obesity doesn't mean you necessarily overeat, right?
I would have been like, yeah, I could have done that whole half. I used to be able to do stuff like that. And the thing about it, like when I was in my binging episodes, it was still like this hunger. Like I was just like, why? Here's how it would work for me. I would have one good day. Like I would have a day and I would follow, like, say, my points to the T. I'd have a great workout. I'd get everything in, but I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. The next morning, immediately when I wake up, I'm like, I just want a sandwich and I want 3 of them. And I'm so ravenous. And it was like, it just did not stop throughout the day. And I, it's Oprah notoriously says that, like, I didn't know until I took this medication that I thought everybody obsessed over potato chips.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would be so
I weren't even thinking about it.
Hungry.
Yeah.
Especially like say with the ebb and flows of our hormones of that time of the month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
That when Aunt Flo would leave, that would be, I always call it the best week of the month of my life. I could stay on track for like 5 days.
Yeah.
Like there was but once that premenstrual hit, it was out of control. It was.
But when we talk about diagnostic criteria for binge eating, there's actually a piece of the puzzle that is about quantity of food. And I have a PhD in clinical psychology. I know the DSM inside and out, and I disagree because the loss of control is the
as a dream.
It's not the amount. I have had people post bariatric surgery or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Feel that sensation of loss of control on very small quantities of food comparatively and feel completely shamed and disgusted and all of those things. So quantity of food is one indicator, but it shouldn't be the indicator as far as I'm concerned in helping people understand their eating behavior through a different lens.
I think what you're talking about, I've done group therapy, Overeaters Anonymous, everything, right? I remember our therapist in group therapy said that you could also not binge at one time, but the grazing all day. So that is also another.
Yeah.
But I only did that because I had the lap band. When I didn't have the lap band, I had sometimes days, and then I would have like sometimes weeks, and then I would restrict, and then binge again. Like it was very awful. And I did it in secret and I did it in silence.
Yes. And you probably can remember the first time.
Yeah, it was with spaghetti when I was little. Yeah. And I remember sneaking down also, like I lived like when I was little, I think a lot of times kids, like when you probably know, I'm sure you know this, but like when big things happens, we have big emotions. We don't necessarily know how to deal with them, but we can control our food. Right. But I knew I wasn't supposed to eat too much and I wasn't supposed to eat certain things, but I knew that I and it's crazy to think of it this way. I knew I had to have it.
Yeah.
And so I would sneak down to the kitchen at night because of where my room was. I could go down and do that and eat cookies and cakes and whatever it is I could get away with. And then I remember just that feeling of satiety and safeness and fullness. And I mean, I felt horrible, but up here, I needed it, you know?
Yes.
Food is a mind-altering substance. I don't, I feel, on one hand, I know that it's when everything is regulated, like you do understand like how it works to keep your body moving, you eat for nutrition, but a lot of times it can be just a mind-altering substance as well.
Yeah.
It's both, right? It is good nutrition. It is fuel. Yeah. And it is emotion regulation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We had
people get hangry, when they're hangry.
Named her name is Dr. Joy. I don't know if you know her, Dr. Joy Bracey, but she has had Mounjaro. She's had the surgery as well, and she's a little bathing now. And she was a big lady. We call her. She says she's a bigger body, like most of her life, And now she's very small. But I saw her the other day make a video. And I was going to ask you about it today. And she said, she goes, I've had a bad day and I am going to eat to make myself feel better today. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a lot, right? But it was something.
Having a grilled cheese sandwich, right?
Yeah, it was grilled cheese sandwich. And
I remember that video.
Nostalgic. And she was just had a bad day. And she was like, it's okay. And I was like, damn, I can't believe she's saying that on the internet. And I was like, that was so cool. What do you think about
empowering?
So wait. Why would that not be okay?
Well, because
let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's do. Like when we are on the interwebs and we talk about so I go out with my son the other day and we're at McDonald's and I'm hungry and I have not eaten enough food and I need something. I got a double cheeseburger. There's 22 grams of protein, double cheeseburger. It's not ideal. You know what I'm saying? And I made a video about it and I go, hey, if you're on a GLP-1 and you're in a pinch, there's 22 grams. I was just like, there's 22 grams of protein. Like, get something in. Like, don't not eat, And I was like, I'm just saying, guys, like everything in moderation. People have been telling us forever. Like, eat a freaking double cheeseburger. Man, people were all up in that business. Some girl goes on there and goes, I'm on a GLP-1 and you need to change your bad habits and you're a bad example of an obesity advocate. I'm like, girl. I'm telling you. And I think a lot of this is diet culture and self-imposed. And but it is like, if you are going to eat bad, right. And that's the thing is there's so much morality assigned to what is good foods and bad foods. Mm-hmm. And then you assign that morality yourself, mm-hmm. And that is just something I feel like I catch myself doing still, Yeah. But what do you think about that?
Okay. In a nutshell, food historically, mm-hmm. evolutionarily, mm-hmm. is designed to comfort us. Mm-hmm. Period. I have a lot to say about the food environment in which we live. That's a whole separate podcast. Right? That's a whole standalone.
I want to get to that. I have a question for you.
Right. Because it really does matter, right? The environment. We've spent some time in Europe and it's different there. It really is. Like if you look at the list of ingredients on the same, like on a box of cereal, right? It's different. There's fewer ingredients, fewer chemicals and things. So, I would love it if we had less stuff like that around us. But the very idea that we are supposed to fight what is an evolutionarily designed system, which is that food is your survival mechanism and the way that you connect with other people is, I think it's just really uneducated about like what human evolution is and how it impacts us today.
Yeah. I think for sure I wasn't educated until I started doing the show. Yeah. Like I for sure felt that way. And I still because it's ingrained, right?
Well, see, but I think there's a difference though, Kim. I think you were in shame about it.
Yes.
And that's shame is underlying so much of the food stuff for people, because I think if we could actually have a conversation with those internet people in a place where we were all out of our shame spaces, they would probably say, oh yeah, like I occasionally emotionally eat too. Yeah. Right. Sure. Or I want to, or I have, or I've seen my kid or my sister or my brother or my husband do it too. But it's like, we get so guarded in our shame buckets that we can't sort of see out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's interesting. I tell the story a lot about how I have had so many realizations about food and my relationships with it and to it, right? As I've gone through this journey. The issue I think with me and why I think mental health is so important on this journey is mine turned off so fast. I did not know what to do with myself because I have always solved for whatever with food, right? Feeling better. I need to feel better. So I'm going to eat food. I need to reward myself. So I'm going to eat food. I'm cold. I'm going to eat food because
I'm happy.
Happy. I'm going to eat food, right? Like anything. And that is something when it turned off for me, it was like my emotional relationship to food, period. In any way it was severed that fast, like a cord. And I did not know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And there was so much fear for me in that moment. But there was a lot of power in that silence because it goes back to what we're talking about with the BED, right? Which is that you have this control. Like at least it's your choice. You know what I'm saying? Like it never felt like my choice before this.
Yes.
It really didn't. I mean, at the time I thought, I'm just weak. Like I am, all the horrible things you say to yourself, right? When you have issues with food, and I never really understood either, Dr. Robyn. I know we haven't known each other very long, but I am a go-getter. Like I have a baller career. if you look at my life, and I'm not rich by any means, but if you look at my life, you're like American dream. Like went to school, has a great job, married, has a child, amazing friends, clearly, right? I have the most amazing friends, like bottom bitch friends, like the kind that will be there to pull you out of anything.
Most of the time when you say that,
I have
it makes me think of pimps. And
well, it is a nod. But it's like, but I could never control like something as simple as my food. And so it always made me feel like I wasn't enough, like, or that it wasn't enough, all these amazing blessings and rewards, because how sad and pathetic am I? Right. That I can't control my food. And that sits with a lot of us that struggle with obesity. And I know that because a lot of this is driven by a biological urge, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that people constantly talk about the push the plate away and you're going to make your choice. Like I went to McDonald's with my son and I had a few bites of a hamburger, but that's it. But I got a sugar drink. And I was like, it was Christmas. I want a freaking sugar drink and it's okay, but I'm trying to make more content about it now because I find a lot of people are focusing on like what I eat in a day in terms of nutrition on these medicines, which I think is wonderful. Right. But what about when you don't, know? And when in our society, is it realistic to think that you are going to eat clean every meal, every day, all the time? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't.
How do we recover from that? What's the best way? Like, what are some of the tips that you have? Like how to like from a big, like a big weekend like I just had last. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I wish I had it with me. I have it in my other office. A client of mine, like 15 years ago, made me a little card this big with a picture of a little red wagon on it and a do not smoke sign over it, like a circle with a crossover. Because I always say to her, like my clients, there is no wagon. And what I mean by that is there's no like, oh, I'm on the wagon, off the wagon, on the wagon, off the wagon.
Okay.
So, and here's why. If we see food as this, or like our relationship with our dietary intake, right? As this wagon that we have to be on, then we are inevitably going to fall off because of all the reasons.
Yeah, all the reasons.
And then the amount of time that we spend like chasing said wagon to get back on is directly proportional to how much shame we experience. Like, do we chase it for a day? Do we chase it for a month? Do we chase it for 35 years while we're raising a family? Whatever it is. And so what if we just like got rid of that whole notion? What if there just wasn't a stupid wagon that we had to be on or off around food? And what if instead we thought of, okay, ready for this? What if we thought instead of our nutrition intake much more like our daily teeth brushing? Okay. So my guess is that the two of you and many of our listeners brush their teeth once, twice, 3 times a day, right? Twice a day? Okay. Have you ever not brushed your teeth at night? Like you come home late, you're tired, you fall asleep on the couch, you don't brush your teeth.
Yes.
Yes. Do you wake up the next morning saying, well, I fell off the wagon last night. I guess I'll start again on January 1st.
No. Brush my
No.
teeth because I stank by then.
You're just like, ew, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I'm going to
I need a
go.
water floss.
Right. Like, I'm just going to go take care of myself.
Yeah, I love my water flosser. Yeah.
Right. It's like,
Mhm.
there's so much less shame associated with that we're able to see more clearly.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a thing that helps me stay healthy the way I want to be for this long-term thing that I'm trying to achieve, which is like my dental health and well-being, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be 100% perfect at it every single time, but I don't need to fall into a shame and set some big deadline and brush my teeth for 7 minutes instead of 2 minutes on the next morning. Like, I just sort of do my thing and move on, right? And that is, the gift of that is not having the shame around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is the gift, right? If we sort of just think, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to do last night, I'll just like do what I want to do now.
Yeah.
You just basically just get back into routine, right?
Back on the routine that works in your life for that day.
Yeah.
You know?
There is no wagon. You just brush teeth. Yeah.
Now, that's obviously super simplified, right? And I know there's all these other forces driving us, but what I'm talking about is the mental health side of it. Because so often when we have a weekend where we're like, you know, doing a thing or on vacation or whatever, and I just was talking to a client literally earlier today who went through a job thing and like just sort of had a rough go and ended up like reverting to some old behaviors that hadn't felt great.
Yeah.
And in our conversation, they were like, well, like, I kind of realized like that doesn't feel good actually. So I'm going to like take better care of myself today. And I was like, we've won. That's it. Like, we've won because there wasn't this whole, I've blown it. I'm so disgusting. What's wrong with me? That's the stuff that like keeps us chasing the wagon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So true. Yes.
Like,
There's so much. And I think that pretty much, I can't imagine, at least in doing this show in the years we've been doing it, right? And I have not met one person that does not associate shame with eating. I'm not one. And I've met people who maybe struggle with 20 or 30 pounds, which to me seems like a struggle, but not 100 and 200 pound struggle. But I think it's the same struggle, which is something I've learned right on this journey, is that, again, like kind of going back to the whole idea of the spectrum of this. And like, I'm wondering, since you've been doing this so long, like when you're talking with people before, like, for example, and like, as I always try to tell people, if it was just about eating less, like this life and this thing that we talk about here all the time and have podcasts about and stuff, right? I would take the cheap shit. I would take phentermine. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was just about an appetite suppression, but this actually treats the dysfunction and allows for so many things, I think, to advance with your brain. Like, puts you, this sort of that was like, it gets your body into a place where your brain is sort of like in a place to receive. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't like do therapy if you're not in a place to receive it. It won't work. And like, I found that like this getting my body in a place, and I'm not in a small body, y'all know, right? Like getting my body in just like a cycle, a good cycle, I could do so much work mentally that I was never able to do before because I was healing. And we talk a lot about like inside out healing here. And I've seen this, like this, I saw that one time someone was talking about inside out healing and they had this wine glass and they put it in a sink and they turned on the water faucet and it was talking about healing from the inside out, and it would just fill up and all the wine would be gone. Eventually it was one clear piece of, you know what I mean? And like, I was like, I posted that for everyone and they were like, oh my God, like that's exactly what this is like. Right. Because, and I think a lot of times we hear people say to us, at least we do, oh, this is all about building new habits. And I don't think that that's incorrect. Right. But it sort of it upsets me sometimes because it goes back to the assumption that I didn't have good habits before, or that my bad habits weren't driven by
or it's like, you know what, I'm going to cut you off here because I'm going to ask Dr. Robyn this question.
I'm sending messages. Jeez.
Yeah. Right. There is a question over there, but I'm going to get to this one. So when you mentioned being in Europe and the quality of food is different, there's always this argument that if we ate better quality food, would we have less craving, or would our behavior around food be less risky? if let's say we just decided to eradicate for long term, would it naturally fix our behavior around it?
Okay.
Does that?
I mean, I don't think that there's anyone that will argue that less chemicals in our food is probably better for all of us, right?
Yes.
But
I know who would argue it. The big food companies.
well, yeah. Yes. That said, I think that the way that the food environment affects us isn't just through what we take in.
Yeah.
Because we start eating visually, like our gastric process. So, okay, hold that. I have like 7 thoughts colliding.
Right.
Okay.
That's why I like.
When I was in graduate school, I actually did my PhD in a medical school, and I had this amazing opportunity to sit alongside physicians in training in all of their sort of basic physiology classes. And of course, as an obesity person way back then, the GI system was really of interest to me. And I will never forget learning back in the early 2000s about how gastric processes begin long before food enters our body.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but when we talk about other substances like cocaine, heroin, other substances, our body responds for those as well before we have ingested them. So our body make like micro adjustments to prepare for what it predicts is coming in. Okay. Wow. So to go on the like heroin conversation for a second, I mean, why not? Right. Here we are.
We talk about all.
There's some really interesting, there's actually some really interesting stories, like a clinical anecdotes of people that have overdosed after they have been clean for a while. And when they go back to using, like you can overdose based on just the environment in which you are in. Because if you're in the same environment where you used to use regularly versus a new environment, in a new environment, your body doesn't have the cues to tell it like, oh, I'm about to hit with this drug.
Fascinating.
And so it doesn't like prepare in the same way. And so a lot of times when people get clean, they leave those environments. And then when they use again, they're in a different space and they might use a lot and their body's like ill prepared. So when we bring that back to food, our bodies prepare for food long before. And it's not just what's in our food that affects us here in the States. It's the omnipresence of food. It's the colors, it's the positioning, it's the pricing and the sales, it's the smells being pumped out
the food stylists, right? The food stylists. Yeah.
Yes. Like it's the TV commercials, it's the Instagram ads, it's all of that. And so our body is like constantly priming for food. Yeah. So do I think that we would be better off if we had less stuff? Yeah. But I think it's so much more complicated than that because our bodies are more complicated and much more sophisticated than that. Right? That's a good thing. Our bodies are amazing machines.
Yes.
It's just that they adapt a lot to the things that we're surrounded by.
For sure. Yeah. Have you seen that a lot? Because I know you've been doing a long time. So you've probably dealt with people who have taken GLP-1s, people who have had surgery, people who have done both, people who have maybe taken phentermine, all those different things. Yeah. Like, what difference do you see in terms of like psychologically speaking on people who are using these different treatments? Like, what's that like? Because I have to tell you, sometimes I met this person on the plane one time and he had gastric bypass. I don't even know how, we just happened to be next to each other and he had lost a lot of weight. And he was talking to me, he was getting candy bars. And I'm bring it on. Let's have some candy bars. I'm going to make candy bar. And he got like 2 or 3 because they were the good ones. We were on Delta. And he took them and he goes, I'll just exercise more tomorrow. And I hated that he even thought that because I know what he was thinking. Yeah. It's that whole like, I have to work it off or I have to, what I mean?
Earn it.
And I hated that he thought that because I did not think that way until I got on GLP-1 because I was able to understand that's just not how it works. But I wasn't going to tell him that because I know my business, But I'm wondering, like, I feel like there's a difference.
So the thing that I would say that I see in common is hope again. Anytime we have a medical intervention, I think people feel like a tiny bit of, oh, wait, this isn't just like me not being smart enough or having enough willpower, self-control or discipline or whatever. And so the hope piece is, I can't say enough how much I think that matters.
Yeah.
Because hopeless is a really hard place from which to make any changes, sort of by definition, right? And so I think that the hope is a really important piece. With the surgery, I think one of the differences that I see is that historically, people have come to me believing surgery as a last resort.
Yeah.
Very like, I have failed everything.
Yeah.
I'm, at this last resort kind of mentality. There's much less of that around the GLP-1s, and I'm very grateful for that. Like, people seem to sort of incorporate that more readily into life without quite as much everything else, like I'm such a failure.
Yeah.
Not that there's none of that, there's plenty of it, but I do think there's a little less. And that's a very hopeful thing for me. I've been trying to talk people out of the, like, I'm a failure, I have to have surgery thing for many years. So
yeah, for sure. I gotta tell you though, sometimes I watch
to a lot of us. Yeah.
Sometimes I watch, I swear I'm gonna do this and then we're gonna go to Kat's question. Sometimes I watch like people talking about surgery and like failure and stuff. And I wonder, because I never watched the shows that were like 1,000-Pound Sisters and any of that. Like I didn't.
Good segue.
But I saw
I know what she's going to ask.
an ad. I saw an ad where they were recruiting people who weighed 500 plus pounds and wanted to change their life. And I thought to myself, like, how all of those shows, they're really making a spectacle of obesity and the disease. And I never watched them, but I have met many people, like even Dr. Rantia, I think you know her. She has obesity and she was like, I loved Biggest Loser. Like, I thought it was so inspirational. They could do it, I could do it. And it was like a big deal. But I'm wondering now, like with everything that we know, like, is there still a place for these kinds of shows? Like, I don't know, because it seems like to me it's going to continue to sort of like, I think, perpetuate something that I've seen you talk about in your socials, right? Which is like, this is a disease. Like it, just like anything else, like you were talking about cancer or something.
Shame. There's still a shame part because somebody feels more comfortable about themselves watching someone else on a farther along down the spectrum. Yeah.
So here's my thought when I hear that. I immediately think, unfortunately, people would also watch, I have stage 4 cancer and this is my last year of life.
Yeah, for sure.
People would watch that too.
Yeah, I would not watch that.
Right. Yeah. But there's plenty of people that would. Right? I mean, we know in social that there's people that document their decline with ALS or other very serious conditions. Right.
Yeah.
So there's something in.
I do go in and give them likes though.
Right. So there's something in human psychology though that is like drawn to the pain that people experience in every chronic disease state. Unfortunately, right? And it's just that the producers are smart enough not to say, let's do a competition and see who dies first among these 12 people with stage 4 lung cancer.
Absolutely.
Like, yes. Right? It's so there's enough like cultural understanding that is an unacceptable thing to make a spectacle of, that there's no market for that like that. But secretly, people would watch it.
Yeah.
Right? And so I don't want to like.
Also, I don't think it's people with just necessarily living in big bodies watching it. And I don't think about that. But my hairstylist, sorry, babe, throwing you under the bus, loves to watch those shows because she finds them inspirational. And she, like, when she's having like a brain, like she wants to brain rot, she sits and watches these shows. She's like, I just love watching them overcome stuff. And she lives in a tiny body. And then I had someone comment on the video that I have no idea what kind of body to live in or what they ever lived in. But she was like, look, people are grown. If they want to do it, they can. And she was like, but I think that maybe if people watch it, they won't overeat because they don't want to end up like that. Like, and I'm like, that's another market. Like, I think in my brain, I'm like, oh no, just people with weight stuff watch it. But that's not true. Yeah. I'm wondering about those stats. I mean,
when I was growing up in elementary school, they showed us like car accidents after people had than drinking and driving, right? Because there's like that's a whole like marketing psychology
To scare us. Yeah.
to scare us. And so is there a part of that? Maybe. But the thing that it's so dehumanizing to individuals, right? And it just is such a like spectacle and a way that we can look at people from afar and make judgments and things about their behavior. And it makes me, I just think there's never been a place for those. So there certainly isn't now with knowing what we know, but you know, that's
absolutely. Yeah. I think it'll still happen. You know, it's like, we did a couple episodes about Biggest Loser, and kind of dissecting that. And especially when they would give them temptations. Like,
I kind of got over, like I used to watch it. I think
people loved it
when they got to the point where they were making them run a marathon. That was when I was done. I was like, you can't.
Or when they would like dangle if you could see, or you could family if you did blank, blank, and blank.
Yeah,
like
it was a donut. It was just, it was gross. Yeah.
Really.
But our friend Ashley was on the show, and she's like, changed my life. That was the best thing ever. She's regained all her weight. Now she's on a GLP-1, and she has diabetes now. But you know what I mean? Like, but she was on it. She almost won. You know, but she was like, no, like, I mean, I learned so much. There's a piece of me I learned how to tap into. And like, so that's what I'm trying to say is like, there are these different perspectives to consider. Like, I may not be the person that can watch that because I'm just a big smush. I just can't watch. It breaks my heart. I just can't, you know, but there are lots of people who are like, no, like that lifts me, you know? But then I think someone else said, I'm worried that they're preying on people, right? That are at the bottom, right? Like they're at the bottom of their self-worth and they're loathing all these things, right? And I think in a way that's true, but I kind of think all reality shows sort of do that. You know what I mean? Like they're all kind of looking to exploit something, right? For viewers and stuff, just like you said, that human psychology piece of it.
It's really, I mean, unfortunately, but there's a real market for that. That's why rubbernecking happens on the highway when there's an accident.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually have to tell myself I don't want to be a rubbernecker, so I don't do it because I do think it's gross. You know?
It makes you think about like hoarders and intervention.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's similar. Yeah.
The show
I can't watch intervention. It's so heavy.
Yeah.
I can't watch it. Yeah. My mom and I, we're not hoarders, but we do tend to hoard. And so we'll go through these things and we're like, we're acting like hoarders. We got to get all this out of here. And I think that's probably what someone's thinking about with this. Like if you've got a problem with food or food noise or anything like that, and you're in that 10, 20 pound range, right? With issues, watch whatever 1,000 Pound Sisters. And then you won't want to eat. Like, I think that's what she was saying, you know? And it really is interesting if you can just kind of like step back and consider what this means to different kinds of people, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, everybody's history comes into their experience in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And how the lens through which they see things. And that's why scaling mental health care and scaling obesity care is so complicated, because every single one of us has our own history and experience through which we experience every medical visit and every medication and all of that. And so it's really complicated to treat an individualized disease with mass scale. It just is, you know.
Which is what is terrifying about as many people that will get access. Like it's wonderful, you know, but I'm hoping that having shows like ours, right, with people like you, that people will come and, you know, and socials and, you know, where they can go and connect digitally. I worry that there aren't a lot of 65-year-old people that are going to be doing that, but I would hope, God, I hope that like there's a commercial somewhere that tells them that like the place that they can go, like, you know, donate to the advocacy thing so we can tell people to come here. But like, it concerns me, like April, like what's going to happen. And because I know there's not enough doctors that understand this. And I sure as hell know there's not enough mental health support for them either. But I feel like if they can at least have community, that's a piece of it. Like when Kat and I first started, when we first started sharing and stuff and part of this community, a lot of us, because there's probably about 100 of us to begin with, right? And we all were very kumbaya in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like knew it was a moment, knew it was a movement. Here's the thing. Regardless, we all have obesity for different reasons. And we all have gone through different trauma for different things. Like I had done deep shit rooted stuff with Weight Watchers. My first diet I was on when I was 8, you know, eating rice cakes to fill myself up. You know what I mean? And I got some deep stuff from that. So when they came into the market, even though, by the way, I'm really thankful for it now because we were very far down the line because of that PR machine. But I got deep stuff from it. Other people don't. And so it all started to kind of break apart, right? And we all kind of started to have our own little things that we do, right? But it was like, who do you relate
Because
with?
we're all human. We're all
Yes. And
different
like
individuals.
whose trauma and whose way of life and whose background, right, is the closest to yours. And those are usually the people that you like follow, right? And that sort of built out the community, but that's good because that way you have options, right? And I think at the time we didn't realize that, but it's become a massive community, like on TikTok, on all the platforms, you know what I mean? And there's so many of us now, and I'm hoping that we've built sort of like this library of content for people, but I still feel like the mental health thing is a massive gap. And I think that it's not even like, just like you said, like around like this time of year, it's always, right? It's always, and it always comes back. And it's just, I think that it's kind of crazy to think that you will just take this medicine and all of those years of shame and trauma are just going to disappear. They
You gotta
don't.
make those adjustments. In fact, that's a great segue there, Kim.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I do that on purpose.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the adjustments. Yeah. So the adjustments that we go through with significant loss, we're still experiencing body dysmorphia, and also adjusting to new human behaviors. People might be a little more friendly with us, and that it can be jarring. That can be an adjustment. And that can also take its toll as well. So let's chat about all of that.
I think I've heard so many stories over the years of people saying, I didn't want to have obesity in my life, but it has protected me from fill in the blank, X, Y, and Z trauma or traumatic experiences. A lot of them in early child or mid-childhood, early adulthood.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we look at statistically speaking, the number of people that live with the more severe obesity, the rates of adverse childhood experiences are so high. We're talking like 60 to 70% of people with a BMI over 40, I think, have experienced multiple adverse childhood experiences. And for those of you listening, if you don't know what those are, those can include things like the obvious things like, childhood, emotional, physical, or sexual abuse, but also neglect, growing up in poverty, growing up with food scarcity, growing up with a parent with significant mental illness or addiction, growing up with an incarcerated parent or a parent who passes away, having a lot of violence in the home or even in your immediate community. All of these are experiences that really do change a person's brain and put us in a spot of vulnerability. And so when we look at the rates of things like IV drug use, obesity, diabetes, risk-taking behaviors of people that have lived through that, we see really, really significant rates. So anybody that ever puts real time into understanding obesity must understand trauma. Doesn't mean they have to treat trauma.
Yeah.
They have to understand it because that's all the childhood stuff. I didn't even mention the bullying, the stigma, the bias, the discrimination, the outright physical, emotional assaults that happen, verbal assaults that happen to people just because of their body shape and size. These are real and significant traumas that people live with, and they often start young and last a really long time. So I was having a phone conversation with a physician that I really respect recently, and I told her that we were starting a GLP-1 user support group in January. And she goes, what do GLP-1 users need support for? And she knew she was on the phone with me. I was like, I literally looked at the phone, and this is so me.
The old
right?
Era.
I literally looked at the phone like, what? What do you know? Who are you? What? I know you. And what are you saying? But it just sort of reminded me how it feels like if people lose adipose tissue, they're fixed.
Yes.
And that is wrong. Number one, because people aren't broken to begin with. And number two, the places that they're broken have nothing to do with their adipose tissue, right?
It doesn't all go away ever. Like it's still there. You know?
Maybe, could it be maybe just because the connotation of like, say, Hollywood getting into it, like, people who are already kind of slender getting into it, maybe that.
I guess. I think it's just like a lack of connecting the dots in a really meaningful way. But I mean, how many stories do we have to hear of trauma and its connection to living with obesity in our society, right? And I just think that it's so short-sighted to not talk about those things.
Agreed.
So when we have someone that experiences significant weight loss, it's not about like, oh, now their mental health is fixed, right? Now, do the GLP-1s help with some of the drives to binge eat? Yes, absolutely. Can they help with mood? Actually, yeah. I think we're seeing some data that people feel a little bit mood improvement, not universal. I've had some anecdotal experiences otherwise with folks, but that's with any intervention, right? So in general, I feel pretty positive about that, but it doesn't fix trauma. It doesn't fix body image disturbances that people have about their shape and size. It doesn't fix interpersonal problems that have developed because of people's shame experiences and things. So there's a lot there.
There's a lot of work to do. And I think, this is like I was mentioning earlier, like I think that, again, like if you take the medicine, if you're able to take it right and get your body in a regulation, I do think the work that needs to be done is the hard work. Like, when they talk about that's hard work, bullshit. Eating less and exercising is not hard work. It's not. It's just, nobody wants to really necessarily do it, but it is not hard. Hard work, in my opinion, is the mental work that you have to do to actually change things. And I don't mean change things with your food. I mean, change how you process stuff and how you act and how you react, like all of that. And when there's silence, at least for me, that's allowed me to be able to gear shift, to be like, how do I want to handle this? Like, and I didn't have that before, like who can do anything when it's all loud up there all the time, know? So I think like, if there's anything I want people to know about it is I think that it enables that work to actually, I think, like stick and not even stick. I still have bad times. I call like, that's what's so crazy. It's like, we think that like, oh, you've been to therapy for a long time, you must be fixed. Like we have this thing and in our society in general, where you go to the doctor, you go for so long, you do the thing and then you must be fixed. Right. And people don't understand that like, that's just not how life works, like, and
back to my dentist thing. I always say like, okay, so you go and you get your cavity filled. Do you never go back? I don't understand. No,
twice a year to get your teeth
twice a year. And sometimes you can like do everything right and you still end up with gum recession. And other times, like you haven't brushed your teeth 3 nights in a row and your dentist is like, great job, keep that, like whatever, right? I mean, you don't have like direct control. You can influence it. Yes, but like having a relationship with someone that understands your biology over the long haul and your psychology over the long haul is like is priceless. But huge caveat, and these are like my hills that I like.
All right,
okay. Number one, there is not training in mental health for the work that I do. This is who you are talking to today is someone
training
who
doesn't exist. That training doesn't exist.
Okay, so we got trained in eating disorders,
right?
And because I did a dual PhD and a military medical school, which is like there were literally 6 of us. Like it's not a big thing, right? I sat with physicians in training and had 1 lecture on obesity, and lectures in GI and like brain chemistry and things because I was training with physicians. 99% of mental health trainees get 0. Like the word obesity is not even mentioned, let alone any sort of mental health things associated with that. And we get trained in eating disorders. Now, is there overlap? Sure. Many people living with obesity have disordered eating, and many people with disordered eating have obesity. But
many people
are not the same.
They have disordered eating too.
Exactly. They are not the same thing, right? It's kind of like saying, well, my heart and lungs work together. So I want to be a cardiologist, but I'll go to pulmonary training. Like that doesn't, it doesn't exactly work, right? They work together, but they are separate entities. So who you are talking to today is someone who has spent 20 years immersing myself, literally, it is like all I do in my spare time is read and study and go to conferences and talk to professionals and things.
Yeah.
I mean, we ended up writing a book about like eating disorders and weight management and why it's so divided.
Did you write the book? Because if not, you need to. Did you write it?
Yeah, it came out in July.
Okay.
What's
Good.
it called?
Sorry.
It's called The New Food Fight.
The New Food Fight.
Man.
Okay.
And it's about like the obesity world and the eating disorder world and how they're so
send me the
separate.
links.
You know what? And then also, like, speaking of, people are I've heard some rumblings about like, could GLP-1s encourage or bring about another disorder if people are misusing it? Could it leave us open to a window for that? Oh.
So yeah, you're bringing up something really sensitive, Kat, as you probably know. I want to speak thoughtfully here because any medication can be misused.
Sure.
Long before GLP-1s came, I was talking to people about using their neighbor's Adderall inappropriately.
Yeah.
Like, so any medication, right, can be misused. Pain pills, like anything, right?
Oh, yeah.
GLP-1s are no different.
Yeah.
They can be misused. And that doesn't mean that the drug is bad.
Yeah.
It means that when a drug is misused, a medication is misused, its outcome is not what we would want.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do think that there are going to be instances, and probably are instances, where people with a history of very restrictive disordered eating patterns, or people with a variety of other things will end up misusing a GLP-1 and have real negative consequences. I mean, you guys probably know, but like eating disorders are the most lethal, like the highest mortality rate of psychiatric conditions.
I did not know that.
They are really dangerous. And it is like not something to mess with. And so I take that very seriously in my practice. I hope everyone listening does.
Yeah.
And we live in this world, of course, right, that has historically idolized, not historically always, but in recent times, particularly like the last 30 to 40 years, has really idealized thinness and, leanness and these sorts of things. So there is a lot of pressure on people, of course, to attain a certain body image. And we know that people are more likely to get promoted, more likely to make more money at their jobs, get the job,
all true.
All of those things. Like there's plenty of data that exists that people in smaller, thinner bodies have better social status.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is a drive for that. And I think we have to acknowledge that. And unfortunately, the GLP-1s can be misused to help that.
Yeah. And I do think something to consider that I've thought about. There we go.
Here's everybody.
Something to think about is, since I've been doing this work and met different people that struggle with different ways, there are people who do have, disordered eating outside of like the binging, right? Or purging or anything like that, where they may be in a small body, but they're like, my food noise is out of control.
Yeah.
And this helps me.
Yes.
And I think that's something,
like mine was so strong. And we talk about that.
Yeah.
Like mine was,
Yeah. Like I think it's something to think about to get away from. And again, this is something for sure I was guilty of in the beginning, of looking at somebody to decide if they are deserving or worthy of this medicine. And ultimately, I'm trying to, at least from like a patient side perspective, change the narrative or drive home a different narrative, which is, this is a treatment for a disease and a dysfunction and a disorder. And your body may not look the same as somebody else's. And so we do have to quit doing that, because if a doctor says like that it makes sense, then it does. And I think we do that though. We all do it. But I have met people who've been like, this has changed my life.
Yes.
I can eat like a normal person again, and I am not plagued with noise, and I'm healthy and I'm normal.
Yes.
And they struggle with the same thing, whatever that thing is.
A couple years ago, I gave a talk when GLP-1s were like really sort of just, coming on the scene in a major way, on the mental health implications of GLP-1 use for the National Academies of Sciences. And in that talk, I'll never forget, I said, my prediction is that people will stay on a GLP-1 whether or not weight is indicated or lost just for the food noise relief.
Yes,
Like that is a real thing.
absolutely.
And if we could figure out how to help people with that independent of body shape and size, because I have clients that need to come down on their GLP-1 because of too much weight loss, but are like afraid of the onslaught of the food noise, right? And like, how do you juggle that? It's really complicated.
It is really complicated.
Yeah.
We have seen some of the doctors talking about coming down and then combined therapies, right? Like adding in another anti-obesity medicine while taking a GLP-1 to kind of balance out the noise, right? But I think that like that's this whole side that in terms of maintaining the weight that we still are figuring out. Like I still bounce around on doses trying to figure this out, you know?
Yes.
Not to mention if you add in everything else like stress and friggin' perimenopause and menopause and all these other things that affect weight, right? And affect hunger.
Depression, anxiety, relationship struggles, parenting, like caregiving.
Jobs, right? Like life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's definitely something we see a lot of. And I'm wondering like, when people come to you and they're talking to you about like how they feel around like the relationship with food, do they ever talk about like when they're on GLP-1s, like what their relationship is like talking about the experience with food with their family? And the reason I ask that is because I remember when I first started versus now, keep in mind my whole family's on GLP-1 now. But when I first started on this medicine, I remember people seeing when I would get my plate, like at Thanksgiving, and, you know, it's like potluck, right? Everybody's like making something and bringing something. And if you don't eat much of their food, they think you don't like it. And they like, it's in the South anyway. They like take personal.
You're like them.
Yeah. Right. Which means you don't like them. Right. Yeah. And the hard work and the love that they put into it. Right. Because again, like there's so much emotion tied to food, you know? And I think like, I'm wondering like how other people have dealt with that, or maybe if you have had people maybe that had surgery or on GLP or help them cope with that, because I didn't know what to do. And I was just like, I'm just full. Like, I'm just full. And it was, and look, I was in this big old body and they know me better. They know I don't get full, you know? And so it was like, and then it's like, okay, do you have to tell them, or what are they going to say? Are they going to GLP-1, you know? And like, I'm wondering if you have had experience that with your patients and if you have any tips during the holidays that people can.
Oh my gosh. So yes, number one, boundaries are totally okay.
Yeah.
And I remind every single one of my clients, and I'll remind the two of you, awesome women sitting here, boundaries are for you, not against them.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for a second. Because we are so worried about hurting other people's feelings or making them feel any particular way. But boundaries are really about us. So saying, I'd really rather not talk about that is perfectly reasonable. Like that is okay. Okay. So number one, like figure out what boundaries feel right to you. Some people are like, bring it on. I want to talk all about it. Right.
Clearly.
Other people are, and that's again, going back to this idea that like you come to treatment with your own history, your own personality, your own stories, your own lived experiences. Like you can't just say this is what's going to work for everyone. Right.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to think about what boundaries work for them. And then I think like the antidote to shame is self-advocacy.
Yeah.
When we learn to stand up for ourselves, it really does begin to chip away at the decades of shame that builds up. And so figuring out how you want to self-advocate, right? Like I am making a different choice this year. It's what worked for my body right now. Or like,
that's a good way.
Yes, I'm using a medication. Like whatever feels okay to you.
I love that.
But give it some thought. Like, don't be surprised. The thing I always say to my clients, like, we see the train coming down the track. We have time to make an adjustment, right? So, if you're going over a holiday gathering with family that has historically had a lot to say about your body shape or what you eat or what you don't eat or how often you're eating or like how many things you've tried, then like think about it ahead of time so that you're armed. Practice. Really, really practice so that it just comes out naturally and you don't like get flustered and nervous and shut down, because then you just feel terrible, right? But if you sort of go in armed with like, I don't really want to talk about that. I'm here to like enjoy this time. And then you just move on.
Yeah.
it kind of dissolves over time, right? But if you're caught off guard, it's like then you end up sort of pressing your boundary in a way that doesn't feel good. So I do actually work with advocates about the mental health side of advocacy, because anytime we tell our own stories, we have to have awareness of like how far we're willing to go, what our guardrails are with this particular group of people that we're going to be talking to. And over time, like you guys have been at this for a couple of years.
Yeah.
We've probably shared more and more and more over the years, because you sort of figure out like, okay, I went to this boundary, I felt okay. I'm willing to like go to the next boundary and feel okay. And it's really important that people think about that ahead of time and set their boundary, because the worst thing is giving more than you plan and then being in the shame spiral about that.
Yes. Oh, that's so true.
Ruminating afterwards, like,
I'm an oversharer.
So
yeah. I'm like, oh, I said too much. I said too much. You know?
It feels so bad, right?
I think, is that the ADHD sometimes? Like, I really do wonder. I'm a middle child. I definitely, I am like an extroverted introvert though, but there are times where there's an introvert inside me saying, shut up. So yeah.
But so I honestly, Kat, like if you know that about you and you have a particular thing that you want boundaried, just practice.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's amazing how much it helps.
About.
Yeah.
She does this thing with me. Like she did it today. Cause she's just like, we get along with everybody. She did today. I was like, you know what we need to do? We did this. And she goes, wait a minute.
I did do
we
that.
Just talked about how we're going to do less of this. And now you're saying we're going to do all these things. Remember we said we're going to do less?
Yeah.
Yes. You know, like, so it is interesting. Like, cause she's usually like the life of the party, get everybody happy, you bring everybody together, but everyone else she's like, So she can do some good boundaries. Sometimes I get my tips from Boundary Land from Kat.
Really? That's funny. Yeah. That's hilarious. That's funny. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I think that's really helpful. I think as people go into this, they, like you said, they decide, because maybe the first year you're just like, I'm hungry, or the first year I want to talk about this. And then the next year, you're like, let me tell you about this, the most amazing thing I learned, that this wasn't my fault, you know? And you have obesity too. You want to know about it? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a really good way, is like practicing and like figuring out like how much more you're willing to share, you know, like,
and if it's nothing, that's okay.
Yeah. And I think like, it's similar, like with like I was assaulted in college. And so like, I don't talk about that. I say it and then I move through it, because I'm not willing to go into that. Right. But like, it did affect me mentally, and it did affect my weight, and it did affect the more weight gain and the more not being able to get it off and all these different things, right? Like it was sort of like an additional catalyst to problems I was already having. And I know lots of people experience that. So I only mention it because I know so many people experience it, and I want them to like not feel alone, you know?
Yes.
Because like that's a lot of it.
Yes. You know? But you're very thoughtful in like, this is my boundary with that.
Yeah.
The rest is for my therapist, right? Like, or whatever, you know what I mean? Or for my bestie or whoever. Yeah. And that's like, it's really learning how to self-advocate means understanding your boundaries and learning the language and then taking the risk, because you're never going to feel ready, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's very empowering. And I think that's something I found too with learning about how these medicines work, right? Like I tell this story all the time. It's like the one I tell on the podcast and the media and stuff, which is like, when the food noise turned off for me, it was so abrupt that and I recognize now it was because both my hunger and my food noise turned off. They are different things, right?
Yes.
And when that happened, I thought I was having a stroke. And I was like, oh my God. And I started talking to myself really, really badly. Like, here you are, and a diabetic medication to lose weight, or blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, oh my God, I can hear myself talk. What if this was the thing? And I knew that I needed to learn everything about it. And then I had to tell everybody. Yeah. And that's what we do on the show, right? But that has empowered me to be able to have conversations. Like sometimes in the business world, I'm like, what do you want to know about it? You know what I mean? Like, because I have this education from a patient perspective. I'm not even close to being a clinician, you know, but like I can speak on it about why it works and how it works and why it's changed my lives and the lives of others and why it makes sense and all these different things because of the education piece. And I think like, I hope that people will take this show, you know, and be able to use that so that you can find your voice, right? I think that's because it's going to be different than mine. They're your words, not ours, you know? So I hope that that's what we can accomplish here, and that you've gotten some good tips today from us. Tell us again what the book is called and where people can find you.
Here it is.
So the book is called The New Food Fight, and the subtitle is long, but it's how the weight management and eating disorder fields got so divided and what we can do about it. It's on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
Great.
I'm on
And
Spotify.
I'll
Yeah.
put the link in the show notes. Do you have like a website for it, or do you want it to come to go like Amazon or something?
Yeah, we're not that savvy. Yeah.
That's fine. Man. Just send me what you got. We'll do it. I'll put it in the show notes. People can go because a lot of our, a lot of podcast people are book people. So
So the thing that I would actually really love your listeners to do, and if you guys haven't seen it, is my talk from last Your Weight Matters, the OAC convention.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen my talk, it's called it's called What We Carry. And it's on YouTube.
Great.
And it's like the thing that I'm
Wait, is that the one?
I want to watch it.
Did you do the one on, I just made me think of this, the one on internalized bias?
Yeah. And like the backpack, I was wearing a backpack. Anyway.
Maybe. Oh my God.
I remember that
wait
though.
to watch it. You must send it immediately.
Because that's another layer that we could talk about because I had a chat
on the
with
show.
somebody and it was like we all have internalized bias against ourselves and then we judge other people.
Sure. Yes. So I'll send you that because I would love for people to listen to that. It's like it is the culmination of all these stories that I am so honored to be the vessel in like bringing to awareness and hopefully giving people language to talk about the things that have haunted them and traumatized them for so long. And to hear the words like, it's not your fault. And this is how your body and your brain are working is really, truly freeing.
That's amazing. I can't, I'm so excited. I'm going to watch this one.
And I just want to, I'm going to be selfish for a second because I'm trying to find a clinician who's read this so I can nerd with you. Fearing the Black Body.
Oh, I have read it, but it's been a long time. Yes.
It's a lot. I had to go over it twice because the first time I read it, it was like, it read like a textbook to me. So Oh, we got to have you back. We could talk all about BMI.
I want people also to know where to follow you on social as well, because like one thing I'll say is we just met, right? And you just started creating content on social, and I would love for you to tell us, I don't think we talked about it recorded, like, why did you do that? And then I'll tell you, like, I'm telling you, when you make content, like when I see you talk, I feel your passion through the screen. This is going to sound bad. This goes back to what you think. You talk like you've lived in a big body. And I feel that if finding people that really understand is very hard, know? And so I feel like a lot of times when people are in small bodies, it is difficult, especially if they're experts. It's difficult for me to connect with them. But I don't know how to describe it. I just do. It's like you've lived in a big body your whole life, the way that you talk. So I encourage everybody to go follow your content because it's very helpful. And as we know, there's already a mental health crisis, right? In this country, especially where there's just not enough access. So if you can just get some residual, like good juju from your content, like, and learn something, then I think that would be amazing. So I want everybody to follow you everywhere you are.
Yes.
I love your tagline where it says shame isn't treatment. That really stood out to me when I saw it.
So I finally came over to the TikTok world just out of like the urging of my friends who are like, oh, just please come. And I'm honestly not very good at it. But what I do give on there is like my heart. And I love this work. As I said in the very beginning, it's my passion. So, but I'm on like, all the classics, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That's where you'll find my big talk, What We Carry.
Yeah. YouTube. And we're going to put in the show notes so that you can do that. And then I'll put your links to your socials if you'll send this to me too, in the show notes so everybody can follow you. And thank you for coming on our show.
Oh, this was awesome.
Is there anything you else want to
have you again
before we go? Like, is there anything that I didn't think to ask you? Oh, we're going to have her again. Yeah.
I mean, well, we could talk about lots of stuff, but I honestly,
next time.
I am so grateful that you are giving a platform to this work in general, but then to highlight mental health.
Yes.
It is not optional when we are talking about treating real life humans with real life chronic diseases. I mean, I don't think people scoff when they think of like, the work I did in oncology or the work I did in HIV AIDS during my training. People don't scoff at that and think like, well, why does someone with, AIDS need mental health support? Or why does someone with stage 4 breast cancer need? But with obesity, there's such a disconnect. And
Yeah.
I said that there's like two hills, right? The first is that there's not enough training.
Yeah.
The second is that mental health support in obesity has been minimized to helping people learn better habits
Yeah.
and building their
Absolutely.
motivation.
Yes. It's
I agree.
Once you learn
Exactly.
them,
Yes.
then if you don't stick with them, it's your fault. Yeah.
If I hear the words motivational interviewing one more time when people say that I'm a psychologist in the obesity space, I love motivational interviewing. It's great, but it is not a treatment for obesity.
No.
Like, I don't understand. And so I think it's just so minimized, the role of mental health. And my goal, and the reason I joined TikTok, is to try to amplify the role of mental health in obesity care,
I love it.
rather than have it be minimized to building people's motivation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like,
we have to have you and Dr. Joy connect too.
yes. Oh, you would love her. We're definitely going to be yes.
Yeah.
We'll connect you to all the people in the land. Yay! Thanks for coming on the show. It's such an important conversation. I hope she will come back.
Important.
And next time we can talk about the problem with the food, because Kat and I want to dig into that for a while. So, pun intended. Everybody have a wonderful holiday, however you celebrate. If you celebrate, we love you. You're not alone.
Practice boundaries.
Yes, practice the boundaries. Do what's comfortable and then move up as you get more comfortable, and use all the language you've learned here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hasta la pasta. We'll see you next week. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, geez, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast, because obviously many of our listeners are going through this same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource, because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need. Today's episode is brought to you by Ro, a telehealth platform that's changing the game of GLP-1 access. What sets Ro apart? Ro understands the challenges of navigating insurance hurdles and the skyrocketing prices of GLP-1 medications. That's why they specialize in getting insurance approvals for GLP-1s. And if insurance is a barrier, they go a step further by prescribing brand name zepbound vials for prices close to those of compound GLP-1s. With Ro, you're not just getting a prescription, you're getting a partner in your journey that's helping you access affordable treatment and guiding you every step of the way. Whether it's insurance approvals or cost-effective alternatives, Ro is here to make sure that you get the medication you need. Visit ro.co/plussides with a Z today to see how they can help you take control of your weight management journey with affordable, accessible care. That's ro.co/plussides with a Z, making healthcare work for you. Check out the link in our show notes for more details.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.